Hey, welcome back, Yvonne's YouTube channel where I read from all my books, Babe in the Woods. Before we get started tonight, I want to tell you a little story. We've done these sink tail vignettes where I talk about different things, and I did one about how I match my golf balls with my shirts. Well, I'm going to send a link to Arturo that he's going to post up because I also write for a golf magazine, and they wrote an article about how I do that. So besides dinking around in the woods, I play golf, a lot of golf. In fact, I played today and it was like 100 degrees. But just today, I picked up some custom-made earrings. Can you get a shot of these? Can you see these? These are earrings I wear when I play golf because they're made from fish bobbers. So I went to this fish store and I bought all these bobbers that were the same colors of my shirts, and I had a friend make me the colors of my shirts. I don't have them all here, but you can see how like they match. So now my golf balls and my shirts are going to match. And the reason I have fish bobbers is because I live in a really, really windy place. So you don't want a lot of bobbering going around. I'm going to give these to Arturo because Teddy managed to already take all the earrings and run them around the ground. So I read from my books, Babe in the Woods. We're on the last book, Path to Totality. Babe in the Woods, if you've been following me, and I hope you follow me, I hope you subscribe to the YouTube channel, buy the books. They're available where any books are sold. The first one is about when I was 18 and I built a cabin. The second one takes you up in the 20s. And the third one, which I'm reading from tonight, takes you up to pretty much the current time. So last chapter was called Making Do. And it was about the time I lived up there for about 8 summers in between jobs. And you live by according to what nature dealt out. So sometimes I'd get stuck up in rain for like 3 or 4 days and couldn't get out. So the chapter Making Do talks about how I occupy myself with the basic necessities and get by. So tonight it's going to be called Moosing Around. Also, when I was up there, it was also when I was an art student. Nah, I'm good right now. Arturo wanted to know if I wanted the footstool. I don't need it tonight. So I've spent about 5 years working either as a student or working at an art center, and I had the summers off, so I would go up to the cabin and I would paint all summer. I would work on a lot of cabins, I'd work in the woods, and I'd paint. I had a lot of time to think. This was like, there were no cell phones invented yet. You still put dimes and nickels in the payphone downtown. I had a Timex watch that you had to wind up. That was like as technology as I got. So I had to make do with what I did, what I had around. So this one is called Moosing Around. When the rains let up, this was like after 3 days of rain, and you're stuck in your head, you're stuck in this like 24 by 20 foot cabin. When the rains let up enough for the road to dry, I drive to town for supplies without the fear of being sucked down by mud and return with a copy of the more cosmopolitan newspaper because of one picture in it. The bulkier edition, a far cry from the weekly Blue Mountain Eagle, to which I subscribed, which no longer exists in paper form, it's now electronic. That evening, while brushing my teeth and going up from the bottom and down from the top, around all the corners before you stop. Remember that? That was a song we had to sing when we brushed our teeth, so we knew we had enough time on our teeth. So after I was going up from the bottom, down from the top, around all the corners before you stop, I was reading an article associated with a picture of Georgia O'Keeffe, who died a few months before in 1886. And if those of you are younger, George O'Keeffe was an artist. A postage stamp-sized headshot of her was printed squarely beside an oblong recapping columns. For all the color this artist brought to life, how visually immoral that George's parting shot should be newsprint black and white. Supposedly, we painted in a similar style, declared a gallery owner years ago while Georgia was still alive, and he staged my first ever solo exhibition. With folded arms resting on his convex belly, he stood in his showroom eyeing my oils and flat out said, "You paint like Georgia O'Keeffe." This was the same art gallery owner who never paid me 1 cent for all the paintings he sold at that show. I still wonder what he said when he discovered his brand new cherry red Camaro keyed. I was also unsure at age 20 there was someone else who painted like me and went to the library to check out the only book there about Georgia O'Keeffe. It was one of those coffee table-sized volumes filled with full-page reproductions of her art. I repeatedly checked it out until someone placed a hold on the volume I coveted, but did not have the discretionary funds to purchase, in part due to one gallery owner. At that time, I did not own a coffee table wide enough to support that book. Until I returned it to the library, I almost held it in my legs across my lap, always having first washed my hands before turning the pages. As a child, I was taught that books, especially the red leather-bound family Bible, were hallowed ground, and my mother checked to see if my mitts were cleaned when I opened the Bible. Not to read the small print, but to study the full-page pictures. One of my favorite was a man in long, flowing white dress in an acid green meadow surrounded by chubby white lambs and chubby-cheeked white children. Blinded by childhood catechism classes, I was taught this was the image of a heavenly Savior, never questioned the skin color or gender, and believed if there really was a God, he lived in a place similar to the Judge's Meadow. I also believed when studying Georgia O'Keeffe in the West, a holy book of its own, I could see the gallery owner's comparison of my work to hers was inaccurate. Maybe he thought paying me a compliment sufficed for shortchanging me when he associated my paintings with a woman who at that time I'd never even heard of and whose work I'd never seen until it fell across my knees. George's brushstrokes were fluid, controlled, superbly blended. Mine were more sporadic, spotting of colors to patch together compositions that were unlikely to resemble vaginal configurations, as some of George's work had been so widely interpreted. In retrospect, I believe my paintings could be more accurately compared to the work of the less sensuous Canadian painter Emily Carr, who I was also not aware of at that time. Now, fully cognizant of both painters, I sometimes channel a tad of O'Keeffe's spirit when painting in the valley, recreating glacial and volcanic folds and faults with brooming big and eyelash-pointed finishing brushes. She is with me, too, when I paint sun-bleached carrion bones discovered far from any game trail. She is not with me when my easel is planted at the bottom of a forest funnel. Then it is Carr who buoys me, while I glide paint beneath the drooping evergreen green beards and mustaches. George's and Emily's spirits did commingle in one 24-inch by 40-inch canvas, a full moon painting I did of an old growth tree. You come up, Teddy? Come on, come up. Come. Two people could not embrace this grandmother of all ponderosas above the cabin without establishing a Missy barking link. Working from a preset palette, a range of mixes of Prussian blue and burnt sienna, I paint until the moon arches over the north slope. When I could no longer see plated values, I pack down in shin-scraping night. Come on, buddy. There you go. In the morning light, I rub Neosporin into my leg gashes, brush out painted Mars on the canvas, tickle in highlights along with the signature, and call this granny a wrap. In 2 weeks, the oil paint oxidizes enough for me to enter the nocturne at the county fair. I was there the day a blind man was led by the elbows into the pavilion by 3 friends who directed him to pegboards hung with art entries. When they stopped before my painting, the blind man's friends pointed out the blue ribbon taped to the right bottom edge of the aluminum frame. Then, because I was within earshot, I listened as they described the scene before him. This is when I approached and told the man that I was the painter. He asked if he could touch the painting. Since all the blending had flattened most of the patina, I was pretty sure even the thickest spots were dry. I figured there was no harm in letting him finger it like Braille. I watched in amazement as he traced the defining rise of branches, boughs, rendered in a range of moony blues. And I was even more flabbergasted when he said, "I want to buy it." Teddy's coughing. Reservation is what I practice in our financial negotiation, aided by his friends who counted out the number of dollars to match the painting's price tag. I'd sold paintings before, but never to a blind man. And for this, I had qualms. He obviously could not see what he was getting into. But he assured me he could feel the painting. I replaced the blue ribbon with a red sticker symbolizing sold and pocketed a safe, satisfying number of greenbacks, much more than I ever received from a gallery owner with a scratched sports car. I would never again see that painting that sold so fast I didn't have time to photograph it, or my newest painting, the second blind man to help me out. Remember the first one, if you read I think it was earlier in the book about a blind man who taught me how to use a K-Pro computer. Many months after that transaction, I bought my first book written by Emily Carr. She's a Canadian painter, by the way. An inexpensive paperback. She called her writing penciled thinkings. I wondered what she would think about me selling visual matter to someone with only a mind's eye. My question was answered in a roundabout way when I looked into the words she painted. Quote, "We just don't know anything. We can only trust and grow straight as we can, like trees." I want to repeat that one. Quote by Emily Carr, "We just don't know anything. We can only trust and grow straight as we can, like trees." Thank you for listening to this chapter. We will continue next week. Enjoy. Oh, we're going to have solstice coming up Sunday. Can we get a shot of Teddy chasing ball? It's getting hot here. In fact, I just golfed in 100-degree weather. It was hot, but we're having a good time here. Teddy loves golf balls. Ready, Teddy? Get your balls, Teddy. Get your balls, Teddy. Get your balls, Teddy. Wrap. Good? We stay hydrated? Stay hydrated. Coordinate your shirts and your earrings. And we'll see you next week. Hope you subscribe and like this. Bye-bye. Oh, hey, I just forgot one thing. There's some things coming up around the book. I've been invited to read my book or talk about my book, Suitcase Filled with Nails, Lessons Learned from Teaching Art in Kuwait. Can you grab a copy of that over there? Is that one? Which doesn't have anything to do with my log cabin, but it's when I spent 6 years as an art professor in Kuwait teaching art to university-age Muslim women. Anyway, there's a big book group club in Dubai that will be doing a program on me June 30th. Arturo is going to put the link up there. And then also, I think it's on the 17th, no, and then the 17th of July, the Mendocino Fine Arts Center in Mendocino, California, will be doing a retrospective on my work. And some of it is it's the time I'm talking about right here. I'm doing that work that I still have some of it that existed, so it'll be there. So Arturo will put those links on. Maybe you want to click on them. I know the one for the Dubai Book Club has a URL that you can snap on. But anyway, I forgot to tell you that, so I did. Bye.